Hi, everybody, and welcome back to this, our ninth week of consumer market research. This week, we're going to talk about a somewhat complicated subject. I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier, which is data analysis, and it's going to morph a little bit into what we're going to talk about next week, which is how to present data. I'm going to talk mostly about quantitative analysis, and then I'll talk briefly about qualitative analysis. I don't really like the approach the book takes, so I'm going to take a kind of a different approach. I will be operating under the assumption that you are not data processors. I'm not going to talk about how to manipulate data, something that I don't do anymore. I used to do it. But generally you would use a statistical package like SPSS, which is probably the most common statistical package for the social sciences. You can use Excel too for doing pivot tables and that kind of a thing. I'm not going to talk about that in a whole lot of detail, nor am I going to talk a whole lot about statistics. When I was a grad student and I took market research, the whole focus was on statistics. And frankly, I don't use statistics in my day-to-day work. And I think most people in the industry rely on statisticians. But I'm assuming too, a lot of you are taking statistics courses. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that you are an analyst, that you're going to be analyzing data. So let's go back to questionnaire design. So you've put together painstakingly a questionnaire with a series of questions. You've developed your sampling plan, and part of your sampling plan is you've already anticipated your analytical needs. For instance, you've asked questions about people's age breakdowns because you're thinking ahead that you might want to analyze by age. And you might ask questions about the car that people drive. Let's stick to the example of cars this week, okay? Because you might want to analyze how Honda owners are different from Toyota owners, are different from Nissan owners. Okay, so you've gone into field, you've finished your surveys, gone through quality control and all that. And now what you want to do is analyze the data. You want to get the numbers. So in many cases, what you'll do is you'll go to your data processing folks and you will ask them for, you're going to want crosstabs. You want to do a crosstab analysis, what the book calls a cross analysis. I've never heard that term. Folks are crosstabs. And what it's going to consist of is, a lot of times it's a Word document, though not necessarily. It could be just as easily in Excel. And it's often one page per question that you've asked in the survey. And it can be a pretty thick report. And I'm going to post an example of a Word document that has an entire study in tabulated form. No need to study it, just take a look at it, because I think it'll make some of this come to life. So generally speaking, the way that the crosstabs are set up is you have banners or columns. So imagine the page is one question, and then you have responses going down. And then across the top, you have what are called the banners, and that's how you're going to analyze the data. So let's say that the question is, how likely are you to purchase a Honda within the next 6 months? Okay, that's a page. And then you've got on a scale of 1 to 5, from I'm extremely unlikely, somewhat unlikely, in the middle, somewhat likely, and very likely to purchase it. And then we'll be looking at percentages. This percentage of people said that they are 20% said they're somewhat unlikely, 30% said they're very unlikely, that kind of a thing. Okay? To me, the key is analyzing by the different subgroups. First of all, you're going to have your total column, which is often weighted. And what you weight on depends on what your objectives are. Let's say in our case, we're going to weight based on age, because we know that our population tends to skew young. So we're going to take that 18 to 24 age group and give it a higher weight, the weight that it represents in the population. So it doesn't necessarily need to be weighted. Total data is not always weighted, but let's say for our purposes, we're going to weight it to match some information that we have externally. So you've got your total column. Then what you have are columns that look at your sub-analysis. For instance, we might have in column A, and they're generally given a letter designation. Column A might be males, and column B might be females, because we want to analyze males versus females. Then we might have columns C, D, and E, which might be different age groupings. So let's say that C is our youngest grouping, D is our middle grouping, and then E is our older grouping. And then let's say that we have F, G, and H, which represents current Honda owners, current Toyota owners, and current Nissan owners. So what I want to do is, first of all, I want to look at my totals and see how high intention is to buy a Honda. But now I want to see how it differs by subgroup. And what the book does not talk about, which is very, very important, is significance testing. Now, we talked about statistical significance in our chapter on developing a sample frame. The software that we're going to be using, most analytical software, will tell us to what extent one segment is different than another segment statistically. And again, remember that that's going to be a function of what the sample size is, but we don't need to really worry about that because the software is going to do that for us. So we go down our total, and I see that, oh, most people are going to buy, and most people do not intend to buy a Honda, but 20% said that they're very, very strongly considering a Honda. Now I'm interested in comparing males to females. And remember that each of these columns or banners has a letter designation. Forget what I said, but let's say that A is male and B is female. And then I've got the percentage of males that say they intend to buy a Honda, and then I've got the percentage of females.